Oh, it's 8:59. We're 1 minute early.
Hey, good.
No one's on yet. My brother said he wants to watch tonight.
Oh, now you're making me horrified. People I actually know are going to be on this thing.
No.
They're not just a faceless mass of people.
Or nobody will get on, as we're seeing now. But either way, we'll do the show.
Yeah.
And then, because we'll still get up.
Oh, there's somebody.
Hey, what's going on? What's going on, everybody?
Hey there.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're just getting started. I'm trying to see, where is the Woke Wednesdays? I started this on my page, right?
I believe so.
Yep. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome, welcome, welcome to Woke Wednesdays. We do this every single Wednesday. I don't know why I'm having technical difficulties with my Instagram. But let's go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. We're coming to you live from North Carolina. I am back home, and we're talking about a lot tonight. Oh, here we go. Perfect. We have an amazing, brilliant, such a genuine person on the show tonight. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, though nothing I say is going to live up to what you just said about me. Hi, my name is Peter Butterfield. I've actually been on the show once before with my friend Jerson here. Last time, I believe we talked about disaster capitalism.
Yeah. It was a great conversation.
Yep.
So awesome. And the people were saying, bring him back. I think a hashtag went out about bring him back. So we have you back. Thank you so much for just accepting the invitation to be on the show tonight.
Hey, no problem. I wouldn't miss this world. I had a real good time last time. And to be honest, like, he's one of my best friends, and I would not miss a chance to hang out with him.
Absolutely. So thank you everyone for tuning in tonight. Tonight we're talking about something that's pretty serious. So I was telling Pete that lately I've been really busy, right? Just school and everything, and I called him because I was going to be in town.
Pause for a second. What exactly were you doing with school? Why were you busy with school?
Just finishing finals.
Finishing finals for what?
Just for classes, that's all.
For which class? Say it.
It was part of my doc work. That's all it is.
Part of your doc work?
Anyways, next.
He was getting his master's degree, mind you.
No, I wasn't getting my that was last year.
That was last year? Oh, this is your doctorate.
Yeah, doctorate. Anyways.
All right, he was finishing up his doctoral degree.
No, finishing this semester.
Whatever. It's a big deal.
It's not about me. All right. Anyways.
Who cares?
Next. But you were talking. I'm like, hey man, I've been really busy, but I've been seeing a lot of things about net neutrality.
Mm-hmm.
I've been seeing a lot of memes come out about net neutrality, and you kind of responded with what?
Well, we need to talk about this.
Absolutely.
This is important. And the thing is, changes happened last week, the day after the previous show.
Yeah. And
we want to. This needs to be talked about. This is an important issue that's going to have long-term ramifications, not just for you as a customer, you as a citizen, but your political life is going to be influenced by this decision one way or the other. And so we need to address this topic and make it at least somewhat understandable what's going on in some of the arguments for and against the decision.
Yeah, and something that interesting that we're kind of talking about prior to the show. You were like, this decision was made at midnight.
No. That's the tax deal. This was not made at midnight.
Oh, sorry, the tax deal.
That was the tax deal that happened yesterday.
Yesterday, yeah.
That's another topic, and
that's a whole other topic. You're absolutely
right. I had not done nearly enough research on that one to have an effective conversation about it.
Absolutely right. So tonight we're talking about net neutrality. For everyone that's just joining us tonight, we're talking about net neutrality. So much to unpack here. So if any of you know anything about net neutrality, please feel free to type in the comments. What are your thoughts about net neutrality? Have you heard anything about it? Are you familiar with it? Have you been able to do research on this? If not, it's okay. And if you have any questions about net neutrality, tonight we're going to try to address those questions. And if you have any disagreements, please feel free to, if you think this is a good thing, please feel free to let us know why. I would love to hear your opinion. I think we would both love to hear your opinion.
Yes.
So,
I'm going, like, there are a few arguments that are somewhat compelling for revoking the net neutrality protections. I don't agree with them necessarily, and I'm going to put my bias out there right away. I'm going to try and talk about the issue, but I do want my bias known. So that's an important thing to have out there. But yeah, so it's an important topic. It's going to have long-term ramifications, and it's something that can be somewhat confusing somewhat boring because the language is not easy to dissect.
So real quick, other kid was saying, I think it's a good thing. Overturning it was good for the corporations.
So yes, but so understand this. There are corporations that are going to benefit from net neutrality being revoked, and there are corporations that get hurt by it being revoked. Think of Netflix and Facebook, for example, are going to be hurt by, and Google especially, is going to be hurt by net neutrality being revoked. It goes both ways. Specifically, telecoms, which are telephone communications and internet service providers. These two groups of companies are going to benefit greatly.
So let's build up to that.
So let's go back.
So let's one thing that I've come to appreciate, I think, in this past year is appreciating history.
Mm-hmm.
Because history it helps us understand how we got to this particular moment in time.
Okay.
Right? It can help us. Not always, but it can help us. Contextualizing a conversation is extremely important. And like a lot of things on Woke Wednesdays, I think we should contextualize this conversation in particular. So let's contextualize net neutrality. First of all, what is it? When this is
Okay, so what is net neutrality? Well, so the basic idea, the very basic concept is with net neutrality is that your internet service provider, that is the company that you buy internet service through, whether it's something like, Time Warner, Comcast, Spectrum, Charter, Windstream, let's see, there's a few others out there, but whichever company you buy it from, they can't treat information that you get differently depending on where it comes from or where you're sending it to. They have to treat all the information that they're getting and receiving the same.
By information, you mean websites, for the most part.
So, websites and services. There's a couple different things here. So let's talk. So there are services like, and I'll mention. I've mentioned this. I'll talk about this a bit later. But there's things like internet phones, like Google Voice, Vonage. Those aren't websites, but they're internet information that you will send out to.
Like Skype.
Skype. These are all like ways of circumventing phone service.
Would something like WhatsApp count?
Yes.
Facebook messages, and a lot of poor people who don't have access or don't have the means to purchase a phone and a phone service, oftentimes they use these type of services.
They use these forms of communication,
especially in developing countries, to communicate with their family that are here in the United States.
These are things that could be that under net neutrality can't be really interfered with by the internet service provider. But with the decision that was made last week, they will be able to.
And and real quick, I want to talk about how this decision was made, because it wasn't like the Senate and the House.
No, so it was made by something called the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC.
FCC, yeah.
So you might know this from like Eminem lyrics if you're old like me. FCC won't let me be, or let me be.
Yeah. They try to shut me down on MTV. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can go back to that. But so they kind of regulate any and all. They regulate you. They regulate telecommunications, and they regulate anything to do with that, with energy information transfer. That's a really
phone companies,
internet, cable, those sorts of things are going to anything that has to do with information or has to do with spectrums, like radio signals are going to fall under it. It controls. It's a very powerful branch of the government.
It's a branch of the government that owns or controls any type of communication.
So so owns is a way of saying it, but it regulates. It controls it controls how communication happens in this country. Yeah. That's what our government does. That's what governments are supposed to do. Actually, you need certain regulations in place to make communication effective. To give a very...
Effective is an interesting word.
So here's a very simple example. How many people have used those devices that let you play your iPod on a cassette player in your car, or you plug it into your
auxiliary cord?
Yeah. You plug your aux into the phone, But it doesn't like plug into your car because you have an old car. It actually plugs into like a cassette tape or
I remember those. You remember putting the little pieces of paper in the cassette player? So they would play. Yeah. That's old school.
It's old school, but like
they don't know about that. Uh-huh.
Well, so there's little like or certain types of Bluetooth emitters will do this as well. Well, that's actually a radio signal that's being sent out, and if that signal was on the wrong frequency, it could interfere with other radio signals. And so the only way you could have any sort of real usage of those wavelengths would be whoever has the biggest amount, most energy, the most electricity they're paying for will get their signal out. So you need some sort of regulation to ensure that it's not just a pissing match over who has the most money for electricity.
Yeah.
So that's the sort of thing we're talking about at a base level.
So that's what we mean by the FCC and telecommunications. Now, where does all this kind of emanate from?
All right, so I don't want to go too far back, so we'll do something relatively recent. So the 1934 Telecommunications Act.
Recent. Uh-huh.
Yeah, relatively recent. You know, about 100 years. Anyway, so that's an important thing to understand. There's not many new laws, quote unquote, regarding internet communication.
The internet is a new...
It's a new thing. Especially like when it comes to politics. Law moves slowly. So what they're doing is they're taking this square peg...
When they want it to.
Yeah. But they're taking the square peg of regulations and rules designed to work for radio signals and electricity grids and using it for the internet. They're taking the square peg and trying to fit it into this round hole as best they can.
Yeah.
All right, so that causes some of the weirdness. But for most of the time, what we call net neutrality was sort of the law of the land. Once the internet became a thing, it was really small. Like, one thing people might not realize, considering how woven into every aspect of your life the internet is now, is that for a good portion of its existence, it was just kind of a thing a couple nerds in a basement used. Or like, you would have a computer with internet at your school, and no one would have internet at home. And for a while, you had AOL, which used your phone line. So you could only use the internet if you didn't want to talk on the phone. And cell phones weren't even a thing then. And this is in my lifetime, and I'm 29. Okay?
You're old.
I'm old, but this is not that long ago. This is recent enough that it took up a long time for regulations to actually be a thing when it comes to the internet. The ISPs just by nature didn't regulate anything, didn't mess with anything, because it was too small to notice. It wasn't worth their time. Okay?
Andres saying 29 is not old.
It's old enough. When I found out what a Cardi B was, I was surprised.
No. Someone said AIM was the best.
AIM was the best.
AOL Instant Messenger.
Yeah. That's actually closed down. It's gone now, completely.
Really?
Yep.
You remember chat rooms? Chat rooms were
A/S/L?
The best. Everyday Pants. I remember those days. I had one of the first DSL access in the neighborhood.
Ooh, you're on that rich life. All right.
The rich life. He said MSN Messenger.
Okay. You and about like 3 other grandpas.
I had Net Zero.
All right.
Well, all right. Real quick though, what did everyone use? I know there's a sidebar to download music. I had Aries. I had LimeWire. I had FrostWire.
You were just giving your computer all sorts of diseases.
All types of diseases. Yep.
I mean, don't worry. I did the same thing. But
yeah. All right. So where we at? All right. 1934.
Okay. So there are 2 types of laws, types of protections that can be applied towards any sort of energy exchange. So like electricity, radio waves, that sort of thing. Title I, Title II. This is kind of confusing. Title I refers to things called information services. Now, I'm going to read this out. I'm just going to read this because it makes no sense.
So what you're reading right now is something that was used to kind of first regulate what we know as the internet.
Yeah. Now, so this is going to sound really weird, and I'm going to explain what sort of thing they mean. I'm not going to go too much more deeply into it because it doesn't need to be gotten into, but just to understand the sorts of layers of obfuscation they use. All right? The term information service means offering of a capability for generating, acquiring, storing, transforming, processing, retrieving, utilizing, or making available information via telecommunications and includes electronic publishing, but does not include any use of any such capability for the management, control, or operation of a telecommunications system or the management of telecommunications service.
Yes.
You got all that?
Everything that he said, absolutely.
Okay, what they're talking about is stuff like 411, like, calling the operator, because that is storing information, it's retrieving information, but it's not the thing that's actually transferring the information to you. It's a service that retains information. That's an information service. All right? A common carrier. And this is the one that Title II falls under.
And then I said, this guy sounds like he's reading for a car commercial.
I wouldn't mind doing that. But the term common carrier or carrier means any person engaged as a common carrier for hire in interstate or foreign communication by wire or radio or an interstate or foreign radio transmission of jurisdiction, blah, blah, blah. In other words, what they're talking about here is anything that has to do with actually transferring the energy. A common carrier is something that's actually transferring the energy along that line. Okay? Now, what the difference is the different rules they can apply to a common carrier.
So we're getting very technical, real quick. We're getting very technical here,
Mm-hmm.
right? I don't want to lose anyone because I think this is extremely important information. We're trying to set something up.
Yeah.
We're setting a foundation as to why we're here with net neutrality, why net neutrality is important, why we should care about this, and how it's going to ultimately affect us.
Yes.
Right? So we're kind of setting a platform.
It's a slow
right
build because so lots of important things are very boring.
And Andrea said something extremely important. She said, the average person would never understand exactly what all of that means.
Yes, 100% agree.
And I think that's part of the point in this, and that's one of the implicit, violent type of actions that politics does. This is not meant for lay people to understand.
No, by any means. It's not. The use of jargon, the use of...
the vernacular of it is just...
It's very different.
Who would know this shit?
Lawyers.
Exactly.
People who train to learn this sort of language.
Which is probably less than 4% of the country.
I don't know the exact data, but that would not surprise me.
Yes, I'm pretty sure that's...
Yeah, I'm sure that's an accurate number.
But that's... Most Americans, 30% of Americans have a bachelor's? Maybe?
Yeah. And
even then.
On top of that, you have to know where to look for this sort of nonsense. Even if you are able to read and understand it, you have to know what to read and understand. Because understand this. What we're talking about, this change from Title II to Title I or Title I to Title II, is choosing which laws apply to something. So there's all these different laws out there, and we're trying to decide which ones apply. Okay? They're all still there. They all still exist. But this stuff is really difficult because there's nothing to point you to say, this is what you need to look at.
And let's be real. Who has time to give a fuck about this type of shit? People have families. People have children. People have spouses.
People who stand to make a lot of money off certain decisions. Those are who has time to spend on.
Absolutely. But I'm saying the type of people that...
No, the day-to-day person.
Your day-to-day person who has a job, who has a kid, who's going to school.
Yeah.
They don't have time to pay attention
to
look at legislation from 1934 up until present day. They don't have this type of time. All we get is the back end, which is, I think, part of the problem with democracy.
Yep.
Or with the notion of it, which is another episode in itself.
Yep.
Or another 83 episodes in itself. But yet, I think Andrea makes a fabulous point about that.
Which is?
Your average person would just not understand this type of logic and words. Yeah.
So, now, what I'm going to do here... So I've kind of said what the Title II is. It's saying, it says the FCC has more power to say you can't do this. The Title I, it gives them less power. Now I'm going to talk about the sorts of things the internet providers can do to mess with your data, to mess with your requests. So to understand that, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how the internet works. Just a little. I'm not going to go crazy in detail here. But pretty much everything, all the information on your internet is broken down into these little things called packets. Like everything you send is taken to a little packet. And that packet has a little piece of code on it that says where it came from and where it's going. So a packet from Netflix says it's from Netflix and says where it's going. A packet to Google says it came from your computer and is going to Google. Okay? So the packets are identifiable, and that's necessary so that communication can happen.
But it seems like it's a very linear type of communication.
It is. I mean, ish. There's steps in between, but this is the important part of it.
You're getting an emoji with heart eyes out here. Okay, Peter. Peter got the juice tonight.
Thank you, making me blush. Now, right now, so under Title II, no matter what those packets are labeled as being, the internet companies can't do anything to them. They have to just let these packets pass through their service from one end to the other. But without protections that say they can't, there's a few things they can do. The first one is, well, blocking. They can say, well, any packet that says it's from Netflix can't go through our system. Meaning, if you try to access Netflix, you go to Netflix, you say, I want to go to netflix.com on my computer. It'll never load. You will never be able to access it. They can, if they want to, they can say, nope, you can't access that. Let's say they could block your access to things. Say, no, you can't go to a specific website. You specifically. We won't let this website go to this place. They can block your connection. Now, that's pretty bad. But there's one that's slightly more insidious called throttling. Now, we have a baseline understanding that you can pay more money to get a faster connection. All right? So, and you can kind of measure how fast. It's either megabytes per second, gigabytes per second, however you want to say it.
Based on your IP address, right? That's the question.
Yeah. Based on your IP address.
Yeah.
That's all part and parcel to it. IP address, you got IPv4, IPv6. So that's not really germane to what we're talking about, but yeah, it's part of it.
Question: can we connect the service providers to the lobbyists and the politicians?
So campaign donations are public record, so you can see who donated to which politician. But understand this: this wasn't elected officials who voted on this.
And this is part of the point of.
This wasn't. So I'm gonna
Go ahead.
Elected officials were not the people who voted to change it from Title II to Title I.
This is part of the
to revoke net
This is
neutrality.
one of the main points we want to make tonight.
It was 5 commissioners of the FCC.
This is very democratic.
Yeah, 3 Republicans and 2 Democrats. The chairman's a Republican named Ajit Pai.
Ajit Pai?
Yeah, I believe it's Indian descent, but I could be wrong.
A Republican who's an Indian.
There's lots. Yeah, this is not a unsurprising thing.
Oh, we have a lot of Cuban Republicans in Miami. I get it.
But yeah, so 3-2, they voted to revoke net neutrality.
Ashley saying, don't forget about throttling. Ashley, you late. We already addressed throttling.
Yep. Well, we didn't really talk about throttling. We didn't. We got sidetracked. She's very correct.
Yes. But.
So anyway, what throttling is saying instead of your connection being at the full speed from this website, let's say this website's sending information to you at 100 megabytes per second. Well, with throttling, they say, you know what? You can only send at most 20. Now, why is this a big deal? Well, let's say you have 2 competing services, and I'm using the media providers because most people are familiar with Netflix and that sort of thing. Let's say you have Verizon, and Verizon says, well, from our website, if you want to use the Verizon video service, we'll send it to you at a full 100 megabytes per second from our service to you. If you try and use Netflix, it's going to be at 20 megabytes per second. So since there's a difference in how much data per second is coming to you, it's going to take longer for the website to load. It's going to mean that you can't run it at as high a fidelity. It means the website's going to perform poorer. So what does that mean for you?
Got slow internet.
Well, it means that you have slow internet to that website. But why would I go to this website if this one just keeps working fine? So what it does is it provides a way for them to kill websites they don't like without looking like they're doing anything. Okay? Understand that. It's a way for them to control where you go without looking like they're exercising a hand at all.
It's kind of like being on the highway and there's some cones blocking off an exit.
Yes.
Oh, the exit's not working.
Think of it as like fast pass versus the commuter pass versus like the normal lane. If you're like in DC or something, where like you can use this like commuter lane if if you're our service. But otherwise, you got to use the lane everybody else uses. That's going to take longer.
Actually, asking a very interesting question. She's saying, is this going to push media sites into internet services?
What do you mean by that specifically? Like, so what do you mean? So
Are you talking about like Instagram, Facebook, that type of stuff, Ashley?
so
And real quick, we have a
our business is going to have to pay. So that is actually, but that's a big deal. Yes,
let me
yes,
read
yes,
the question. So are the businesses going to have to pay providers more to get access to us?
So that's actually a very good question. The answer is it depends. So this has already happened in the past. For a while, and you can actually chart the access up to a certain decision in 2010, where Netflix had very good connection to everybody, and then in about like 2010, their connection to the speed and the testing, like from a person's computer to Netflix, shot down because there's a court decision that gave corporations a bit more power at that point, and I'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah.
Then there was some deal that happened between Netflix and I believe Verizon. No, it was Level 3 Communications. And
what is Level 3 Communications?
It's another telecom internet service provider. There's a whole bunch of those things out there.
It's an internet company.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, hey, after that deal was made, the connection was no longer poor. So it's very likely certain companies are going to have to pay more to access you. This is a big deal. I'm going to get into a little bit more of that.
Andrea's saying maybe this will bring bookstores back. Hashtag Borders lives. It doesn't.
Borders doesn't.
Borders
actually, so we can talk about bookstores. There's actually plenty of bookstores out there right now. It's just chain bookstores are no longer a thing. There's lots of little, like, hole-in-the-wall indie bookstores that have opened up.
There's also virtual bookstores on Amazon.
Yes.
I mean, Kindle.
Yes. Until they're throttled.
So explain throttled, because Ashley brought this up earlier. We didn't really get...
I did.
Quick. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But it's essentially, instead of getting the full amount of service that the website's sending to you, the full amount of data they're sending to you, they restrict compared to other things.
Gotcha. The detour. Gotcha.
Yeah. All right. So, now, there's a couple of arguments for why this is such a big deal. Why is this such a problem? Okay? And so, the first thing is that net neutrality, the practice of restricting telecoms from being able to mess with your data.
So I don't think we've provided a definition of net neutrality.
So net neutrality is a system of protections that says that okay, do you remember that there was a joke a while back about a senator that said the internet's a series of tubes?
No.
A while back, a senator said that from Alaska or something. He was kind of an idiot. But it's not a bad way to conceptualize the internet. Think of the internet literally as a series of, like, water pipes, okay? What you want is the water in that pipe not to be interfered by the company providing the pipes.
You don't really care how it works.
You don't care how it works. You just want the water from one end to come to you as fast as it can.
That's really clean water.
With net neutrality, that's it. You're just getting the water from one end to another.
You don't really care how it works.
Without net neutrality, they can decide water from one source can take longer than it should. They can say they have control over what water goes from part A to part B. They have control over the water.
This might be a horrible analogy, but can people get flinted in a way?
No.
Virtually.
I don't think that applies in any way.
No, in the sense that I'm guessing people can't get what they want in the way it was meant to be type of way. In a very broad, generic way.
Okay, if you're saying that they can get shat upon by corporations and infrastructure, yes.
Someone just said, Flint water coming with the internet
Yeah.
at the same time. Ashley, yes, thank you. We're in the same mindset. In that type of way, disparities in inaccessibility to internet.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
That's good. Thank you, Ashley. Yes.
So,
shout out to Deltas. Go ahead.
So here's a few things that keeping net neutrality protections alive, which is going to take some work to do at this point, benefit. The first one, and this is one that it will speak to probably more of the economic conservatives in the area. So probably not many people here, but it's something to mention. It promotes small businesses and startups. So let's say you want to start a company or a web series or something like that. Well, why should a media company like Time Warner, who owns both internet and media outlets, let a media startup happen when they can just throttle or block connection to it to increase service on their other platforms. Why would you watch something on the internet that doesn't work when you can watch their TV service, watch their cable service? Keeps you paying for more things. Well, by stopping them from interfering, you allow these startups to happen. And not just with, like, media, but like, things like Etsy shops, things any sort of business or application that uses the internet has less hurdles to jump through if they don't have to pay to access their customers.
Yeah.
They're just paying for the same service as everybody else. There's a lot less hoops for them to jump through. It's good for small businesses and startups. So, and people in
Wednesdays.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean that's what it is essentially, right?
And because of that, this also increases competition. You want more startups happening because if you have more businesses competing, as this is
by virtue of living in a capitalistic society, we want.
Yeah.
And by we want, that's a very.
This is a very subjective, and it's focused on a certain subset of the populace here. But
yes,
this is something that directly benefits people who
I may consider healthy economy.
Yes.
Yes.
It prevents what it prevents what I call privileged pricing, but that's the talking about where companies have to pay to access you, where Netflix has to pay extra to access customers compared to Verizon or another company where they can choose.
And if Netflix pays extra, that means
it'll likely come back to you.
Pay extra.
So I would call that privileged pricing, where the website you're trying to access has to pay extra to get to its constituents, its customer base.
So right now, let's say Netflix doesn't have to compete with the individuals making these regulations. They have to compete with Hulu or Amazon Prime, and that's about it.
Yeah.
But now with net neutrality, they have
without net neutrality.
But I'm saying now with net neutrality, there are restrictions now where they have to pay this, and not only this, but now on top of that, there's also the competition from other people.
Well, so net neutrality is the thing that prevents companies from charging extra to access people.
Say that again.
Yeah, net neutrality is repealed. It's gone right now. She's correct.
Without sorry.
Without net neutrality, not only are they competing...
English, hold on. English is my second language, so y'all take it easy on me.
And you've been speaking it for how long?
Like 3 months. Leave me alone.
Okay. We met in 8th grade.
I don't know what you're talking about. Anyways, continue.
Okay. It also, it increases customer choice. It increases your ability to choose different services. It lets you choose Netflix or Hulu. Or if a company does something you disagree with politically, you can stop spending money on them and go to another option. With net neutrality repealed, and this issue, so the repeal doesn't go into effect until the beginning of next year. Yeah. Okay, so it's not in effect yet, so you're not likely seeing anything yet. But it gives you more choice. And the last one, the most important one, by far for me, is political organization.
Okay, before we get to that, because that is huge, that is key. Real quick, because I know we had some people who just joined us. I want to make this very clear tonight that this was not a decision made in Congress, Senate, or the House. No, this was not. This was a decision made by 5 people. I know you said this earlier, but I think we need to drive this point home. This was a decision made by 5 people where the votes made were drawn very vividly by party lines. 3 Republicans, 2 Democrats. I'm an independent. I don't really whatever. But the point is that this is how it was done, and the decision of 5 people, or maybe of 3 people, right, will ultimately affect millions upon millions upon millions. And one of my questions is, will this affect people outside of the United States?
So directly, the direct effect is going to be minimal. They have, other companies have their own, other countries, I should say, have their own laws regarding what internet service providers can do with data. That being said, until very recently, under a certain orange person I won't discuss
45.
right now. Yeah, 45. Until recently,
that
other
Southern
countries...
accent came out.
It came out right away, Now, Until recently.
Oh my god, I hate people on this. I hate people on Woke Wednesdays. I'm gonna read the serious comments and then I'm gonna get to the subpar comments.
Okay.
Andrea said, the one positive thing about this happening in this day and age is that 10 years ago, this would have happened without anyone's knowledge.
100% correct. Yes. Yes. That is the one humongous advantage. It happened now. It didn't happen 10 years ago. We are more connected and politically aware than ever.
Yes. Beautiful point. And this is a comment that I highly disapprove of. Kathy said, woo, Batman and Robin reunite. Sorry, just logged in. Mario saying, somebody go tell Al Gore to reinvent the internet.
It's kind of funny.
Andrea saying, the people are slowly learning the power they have as consumers. Darknet, anyone? Mario said, hell no.
We're not going to be talking about Tor browsers here.
I don't venture down that rabbit hole. I don't know what Darknet is. Gotta learn how to hack. Free the internet.
So essentially, Tor, so the darknet is unlisted websites that you can't go to unless you specifically know the IP address. Usually, you have to use something like a browser called Tor, which puts you through different types of proxies.
Why does it gotta be darknet? Why can't it be lightnet?
Because our very language is somewhat racially coded.
Ooh, our somewhat language is racially. Hey, facts being dropped on Woke Wednesdays. All right, cool. So let's talk about
So political organization.
No. My question.
Okay. What is your question?
About the 5 people making decisions about this
Yeah.
point. How come most people, I would argue, that did not know this was happening until some type of decision was made?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, so the first thing is that, and this is a big one, it's boring and complex. Like, outside of any sort of political machination, which there is some.
Machination, I've always liked that word.
Yeah, it's a good word.
Such a great word.
This is not something that's easily digestible. Like, we're spending a lot of time setting up what the issue even is.
Yes.
All right? And that's a problem. It doesn't make it easy to go on the news cycle. It doesn't make it easy to talk about.
It's also not a sexy...
Oh, it's not a sexy
argument, issue. Right? When we talk about Trump said something about Colin Kaepernick, okay, that is
an immediate emotional response.
That's something that we get. We get it. But this type of shit, we don't get this shit.
You don't feel enraged. Title II protections were repealed and returned to Title I.
Even Andrea said politics are not the Kardashians.
Correct.
Yes.
And so we need to make people. Mm-hmm.
Mario said, I also feel that in addition to not knowing, a gang of folks didn't understand either.
Well,
absolutely.
Yeah, this is a hard thing to understand.
What's up, Kevin?
Focus on it directly.
What's going on, brother? Yeah.
So yeah, you're 100% right. It's a difficult issue. It's a complex issue, and it's really easy to keep difficult, complex issues you don't want talked about out of media circulation.
Real quick, there are numerous policies that go and they are passed without so many people not knowing about.
Well, I mean, that's going to be a factor when you have because of the size of the government. This isn't a negative thing necessarily.
But it's a reality that affects us in a consequential type of way.
Yeah.
Ashley wants to know, what's the guest's name? Peter, tell her your name. Sorry, I said the name.
It's Peter Butterfield.
Peter Butterfield. Butterfield. That's it. Took it back to high school. Yeah, Peter Butterfield. Man, brilliant. Yes, follow him. He doesn't have Instagram. Well, you have an Instagram. You don't
it exists. I need to use it
more. You don't use it. But you're more of a Facebook person.
I'm more of a Facebook.
Kathy, go away. She called you Batman. Kathy, go away. Kathy, go away. Peter Butterfield, a.k.a. Batman. I need y'all to stop hyping.
Oh, come on, Robin.
Whoa. Okay, y'all are rude. So thank you for tuning in tonight. Appreciate y'all as always. But you do have a Facebook account.
Yep.
Wow, someone call me Nightwing?
That's not a bad one, dude.
That's disrespectful.
Nightwing is awesome. What are you talking about?
Robin was so much better than Nightwing.
Nightwing is Robin.
No, he's not. No.
Don't be a
Robin
dick.
will never be Nightwing. Nightwing, no. Anyways, no, we're not going to get into this. We're not going to talk about Marvel, even though you made a brilliant point about toxic masculinity.
Oh, you're making me so... I can't... no.
Peter made a brilliant point earlier about toxic masculinity tied to Marvel Comics. It was beautiful. But we're not going to get into this. How does that Damian Wayne... How does he have that Damian Wayne type of attitude? Wow, this episode is going real left. And we usually stay on the left. He's like Robin went through puberty. That's the okay. Whoa. Okay, back to net neutrality. This just took.
You're assuming Jerson went through puberty.
But I'm blushing. Anyways, continue. I need to get to the beer. Go ahead.
Okay. So the big thing that we need that is an issue when it comes to net neutrality is that without it, corporations have a way to directly clamp down on political organization.
Yes.
So think about this. Let's think about Black Lives Matter. How much of the organization of Black Lives Matter occurred on things like Twitter, online, in message groups? How much of the organization for, Occupy Wall Street occurred online? Heck, let's talk about the Arab Spring, which was a movement in 2011 where tons of Arab countries experienced revolutions, even government-toppling ones, that organized online.
Which reminds me, next week, Palestine is the topic for the show.
Talking with Suja?
We're talking with Suja, one of my childhood friends, PhD, finishing it at Oxford University. Tune in next week. Sorry, shameless plug. Go ahead.
Super smart.
Super smart, yeah.
All right. But, so, the big issue is that this is a way that they can go, oh, this website has a lot of people talking about protesting Verizon for our business practices. Oh, a lot of our laborers are talking about striking on this website.
And that's saying the revolution was literally televised. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, now they can go, you know what? Blocked. That website doesn't exist anymore. No one can access it. This is a way for them to literally clamp down on political communication, political organization.
Yeah.
They could block your access to Twitter.
Yeah.
They can cut it out. And so a lot of the political gains, especially in regards to identity politics, this country has made in the past 2-3 years, have all come down a lot to the increased communication we have via the internet.
But even a simple thing on campus. So I go to Florida National University, right? The only public university in Miami. And we had Betsy DeVos come visit. We were the first public university that Betsy DeVos visited. We were able to organize through Instagram, through Woke Wednesdays. We had a group going on. Hey, we're meeting here at this place, little things like that. We were able to organize and have a little protest on campus.
Yep.
Little things like that cannot happen. And Ashley said something interesting. Mm-hmm. She said, we'll need new ways of communications. What are our options? We're millennials. And they're saying, we'll make it happen. Ashley said, back to radio. Now,
ham radio is a thing.
Everyday Panda saying Gestapo 2.0. Ashley saying walkie-talkies. Radio is still very powerful. Ashley said crows. Go away.
Hey, if it works, it works.
Andrea said 2 strings in the can. She said smoke signals. Lord. K_Vin saying ultimately this change means the limited information we can access is now censored and filtered. Good for big business and big government. Free thinkers and truth seekers need to hit the deep web now.
I would change your statement to more censored and more filtered.
Yes.
Because most information we get is going through a censored filter, not necessarily through government or corporation, but the people you interact with act as a censored filter for different perspectives and ideas.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, absolutely. I would say more censored and more filtered and more maliciously
are censored. Yes, it's more. The intentional is more malicious. The intention is more malicious, right? More politically driven. Mario saying perhaps carrier pigeons, FTW. I don't know what that means.
For the win.
For the win. I'm unfamiliar with acronyms on social media, but I'm learning.
You're getting better at it.
I learned that WW means Woke Wednesdays. So, hey, that's it.
Carrier pigeons are a thing.
Yeah.
Now, I would feel remiss if I didn't address a few things that are arguments in favor of revoking these protections.
I mean, feel free to feel remiss. Go ahead.
I'm going to bring them up because, you're going to encounter these arguments.
And we need to address this. Absolutely.
The first one is that, when these protections were officially passed in 2015.
Say that again for the people.
2015.
Okay, one more time for the people. 2015.
Yeah, that's when the official regulations were passed for that put net neutrality as a thing of law.
So net neutrality was not a thing until 2015.
Well, it was a cultural thing. I'm
talking about legislation.
So there was no real legislation behind it up until about 2010.
So prior to that?
Prior to that, it was just sort of an accepted cultural thing. It grew up because the internet was small, It didn't really matter, so it was just had been the way things had always been
So
done.
this is extremely new.
It's a new thing, yes. Well, like, it's not that net neutrality is new. It's that up until about 2010, there was no real challenge to the idea of the FCC being able to regulate things. Then there was a court case, which I'll talk a little bit about, that challenged that, and there was another court case that same year that officially, like, just completely ended the FCC's ability to regulate what corporations did. Then, in 2015, under a certain amount of pressure, the FCC put internet communications and ISPs as common carriers and put the internet subject to Title II protections. That's kind of the timeline we're working with here, all right? But in 2015, when these things, when it first passed, there was like a 20% decrease in investment on online infrastructure. It does scare away businesses when they're not able to control their product. Now, I'm kind of more of a boo-hoo, poor corporations, I don't really care. Go play me a sad violin. Like, who cares?
You're about to say go cry me a river?
I was going to say a few other things involving a bit more words that, well...
I mean, you can feel free. This is an open format.
It is, but I'm trying not to say fuck them too much. Anyway, it allows corporations, and it gives a method for corporations to silence more destructive political groups. This is a way that they can corporations could clamp down on things like the KKK. They could clamp down on their websites. They could clamp down on alt-right websites. They could clamp down on things like the 4chan poll board.
What the hell is that?
It's where a lot of alt-right trolls on the internet meet up to become like Charlottesville protesters and
What's
stuff.
it called?
Don't worry about it. If you know about it, you know about it. 4chan.
4chan.
Yeah, don't go there.
Okay.
It lets them restrict things like the Daily Stormer or other neo-Nazi white supremacist websites. Yeah. This is a frame without the net neutrality protections, it gives corporations a way to say, no, this website can't operate.
For Everyday Panda said 4chan used to be my favorite site.
There's there's good parts of the website, don't get me wrong. There's just the very vile part of it.
I'm going to check it out just to check it out.
Don't, but okay. Your loss. All right? Now, there's another third reason to not worry about revoking the protection.
Real quick, we got a lot of people tuning in. First, a quick two as to why net neutrality, not revoking it was a good thing.
So, why revoking was a good thing? So the arguments in favor of revoking net neutrality protections are: it keeps investment in internet infrastructure high. It allows corporations to silence extremist, supremacist, and other violent political groups.
Which I'm down for, but okay.
So
a little bit.
The sword cleaves both directions there.
Yeah, because even if you clamping down the internet, it doesn't mean you won't get physical manifestations of violence, right? Yeah. So yeah, I get it.
There's a third one, and that leads into another piece of discussion here, which is a lot of corporations say, though we will now have the privilege to do so. There's a direct Verizon tweet that I didn't print out because, well, I forgot to, where they say that even with these protections gone, we have no means where we're going to charge our customers more to access specific websites.
Because it can't charge customers more.
Well, they can now.
I thought they can charge, like Netflix and those.
No, it goes both directions.
Oh.
It goes both directions.
They're not.
Well, here's the thing. They have done a lot in between 2010 when the FCC lost their throughout the internet's history.
Yeah.
They have done a lot even when it wasn't tacitly legal to mess with it. It's a direct lie. So we're going to start in 2005. And so I've got a ton of these things. I'm just going to bullet point hit these. 2005, Madison River in North Carolina, the Madison River Communications blocked the VoIP service, or Voice over Internet Protocol service, Vonage. Okay, Vonage filed a complaint with the FCC.
God, you remember Vonage?
I used to work for them.
Oh my God,
this
is crazy.
After receiving a slew of customer complaints. The FCC was able, because this is before the 2010 court ruling, was able to step in and prevent further blocking. The FCC doesn't have that ability today because of the repeal. Comcast, in 2005, the nation's largest internet service provider, Comcast, began secretly blocking peer-to-peer technologies. BitTorrent, LimeWire, FrostWire. Okay? Nutella. Well, they were...
The chocolate company?
It begins with a G.
Oh.
All right. They were... People who were on Comcast weren't able to connect to the services at all. Well, until there's 2007 investigation from the Associated Press, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, they confirmed that Comcast was doing this. And so the FCC was able to come in and nix it. Now, here's one that's a bit more... I'm going to read this one in full. TELUS, in 2005, this is a Canadian one. In 2005, Canada's second largest telecommunications company, TELUS, began blocking access to a server that hosted a website supporting a labor strike against the company.
Wow.
Listen to that again. I'm going to read that again. In 2005, Canada's second largest telecommunications company, TELUS, began blocking access to a server that hosted a website supporting a labor strike against the company. I really want you to think about that. There was a direct website, a direct from political organization, that affected an internet service provider's bottom line. Axed it. Gone. That's what's super important here to understand. Not just that your prices are going to get messed with, because they will. Not just that the internet will be less convenient for you to use, because it will. Not just that it's going to be harder for companies to get started providing a new or interesting service, because it will. But your very ability to organize, your very ability to challenge these ideas, your very ability to communicate and discuss these problems and seek solutions is going to be directly and indelibly affected by this.
Real quick, iMessages.
Yeah.
iMessages become the new way to text through iPhone.
Yeah.
Which is inherently connected to the internet.
Yeah.
So people will say, well, I don't have to use Facebook, I don't have to use Instagram, I don't have to use whatever, I can just text.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people have iPhones.
Yeah.
A lot of their iMessages, which are the blue, connect through internet.
Okay.
So those will also be regulated in a way by all this. They will be affected at least.
They'll be affected. In fact, iPhones specifically have been messed with before. Let's see, where is it here? Yeah. Oh, yeah. So in 2012, AT&T announced that it would disable the FaceTime video calling app on its customers' iPhones. AT&T decided, you know what? You can't use the service anymore. Plain and simple, just gone. And since we're on, I'm talking about AT&T, this one's kind of funny to me. Between AT&T, Sprint, and Verizon, between 2011 and 2013, AT&T, Sprint, and Verizon blocked an application called Google Wallet, which was a Google service that allowed, a Google, paying service, kind of like PayPal, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, it competed with a service the three companies had created called ISIS, and
wow.
So they tried to block the Google service. Just kind of a funny confluence of events that you had three companies trying to support ISIS.
Wow. Look, Instagram's gonna get off in the next 7 minutes. I think we have a little bit more to discuss, so we're gonna go ahead and end it right now.
Okay.
And then because I don't want to.
Oh, has it already been an hour?
It'll be an hour in the next 7 minutes.
Holy! I didn't realize I'd been talking.
I don't want to get kicked off in the middle of some of the most important part of the conversation. So tonight we're talking about net neutrality. We're gonna start editing and start right back up. So make sure to tune in. Thank you. I'm getting old, man. I can barely get back up to end. I mean, I'm old, man. I'm old. 29.